Hello, and in today's video we are doing a deadline stream for double game week 25. It's the biggest game week of the season so far, and we have got 4 teams doubling. It's Manchester City, Liverpool, Luton and Brentford. Make sure you do go on to smash a like on this video if you enjoy it. Always the support is much appreciated. We're trying to get to 200 subscribers by the end of the season, so smash that subscribe button and make sure you comment down in the live chat or after watching the replay what your transfers were for the double game week 25. So let's get straight into my game week 24 points and show you how I got on in the game week. So I ended up making 2 transfers, and those transfers basically were for a minus 4. So those transfers were bringing in, firstly, I thought ahead of the double I needed Diogo Jota, because he had a great home fixture against, and I wanted him for the double game week 25 against Brentford and Luton. He is going to blank in game week 26. I can get through game week 26 benching Diogo Jota, so I thought he was worth it, and he delivered with a nice goal against Burnley, and very, very happy with that. The thing that I wasn't happy about is the fact that I sold Anthony Gordon, because Eddie Howe in the press conference ruled out Anthony Gordon from the Nottingham Forest game, and it turned out he was absolutely fine and started the match against Forest. And I was so relieved to see Gordon blank in that game at the City grounds. So, yeah, a bit of a scary one, but great to see that transfer pay off. And Jota getting the 7-pointer, Gordon getting the blank. It worked out perfectly. But 82 points for me in Game Week 24. So that's a 7th green arrow in a row. So if we look at our Game Week history quickly, in terms of green arrows for us recently, we're looking at 11 green arrows in the last 13 game weeks. So it really has been a kind of key point for us in this season. We've climbed up to now an overall rank of 181k. So we're kind of closing in now on that top 100k, which would be very nice to do. Considering this has been a tough season, a lot of people, content creators around 1 million, 2 million. So it would be nice to kind of show that at the end of the season with a nice rank. But it is one of those seasons, I think. But now, where the double comes in, and the blank in 26, the double in 28, the blank in 29, this is where the gains can be made, and, seasons can be defined. So it's a really important game week. And so, fingers crossed, game week 25 can, end up working for us. But in terms of the goalkeeper in game week 24, Martin Dubravka continues to be an absolute nuisance. Since I brought him in back in game week 17 to replace the injured Robert Sanchez, it's just not gone well. Newcastle's defence has just imploded, and he did that again against Nottingham Forest. The first goal for Anthony Elanga, I don't know why Dubravka's coming out for that one. Very, very frustrating stuff. I think Newcastle haven't quite had the same defence as they had last season. But, at the end of the day, they don't concede many chances. Like, their XG conceded isn't actually that bad, but they just find ways to concede. So fingers crossed, eventually it will pay off. But at the moment, Dubravka's just been doing very little. However, I'm not too fussed about that because neither of any other keeper. So it's not really like I'm missing out on a lot of the points. It's frustrating when you kind of think about it for a long time, and then you end up getting not much back. It's hard to take, but going forward, the fixtures for Newcastle, they're a bit up and down, so we'll have to think about that, whether I rotate him with Alphonse Areola. The defence then, Pedro Porro, 2 points, He obviously got a blank against Brighton. It was a shame to see, that goal clean sheet wipeout, but this is the thing about Porro. If he doesn't get an attack and return, it's likely a 2-pointer because he's so attacking. But Spurs are so attacking in their output and their style of play, they're likely to concede. So, yeah, kind of a shame to see that blank. But this is what defenders and keepers have done all season, right? They've just not been getting a lot of points. Trippier, though, at least he got an assist. That was nice against Nottingham Forest. Great ball in for the Bruno Guimaraes goal. And, Trippier does just do that. Even when he concedes, he gets the odd attack and return here or there. And the fixtures coming out for Newcastle, as I mentioned, a bit mixed. So it's interesting. He's obviously nice to have, but Doughty, he's got a very different price on him, 4.6 million. Going into the double, I thought he would be worth it. So that was my second transfer as part of the -4. I did Jota in for Gordon and did Doughty in for Konza, who I'd brought in the week before, and he got injured against Sheffield United. So Alfie Doughty, I think he's still going to be worth it. I think he's going to pay back the points in double game week 25 and double game week 28 because he's just so attacking. And yes, it didn't go to plan against Sheffield United for Lucen. We all went for him because of the plum fixture, but I think with FPL things even out, and Doughty's a good pick for a good reason. He's still one of the best assisters of the entire league, so he's got to be a great asset for double game week 25, even with the tough fixtures of Manchester United and Liverpool. He can always get an attack and return. So yeah, 1 point against Sheffield United was a shame, but at the end of the day, he's got potential for getting more points. Now midfield wise, Pascal Gross, lovely stuff, 10-pointer. That's what you love to see. I mean, João Pedro was obviously injured in that game, so that was penalty duty for Pascal, but he's been an absolutely brilliant differential for me. If we just look at his points in the last couple of weeks, I mean, it was a lovely 11-pointer back in game week 23. That was huge for me because I thought about selling, but then kept the patience with him, and then a 10-pointer this week. He's just 5.8% owned, and he's got Sheffield United in game week 25, followed by Everton and Fulham. So he's going absolutely nowhere for me. He's been a great asset the last couple, and yeah, I think he just ticks along very nicely, and you know what you're going to get from him. Always starts, and yeah, now that Pedro's injured, he's on penalties as well, so that's an added bonus. And he loves getting the bonus, right? Because you got 3 of them against both Tottenham and Crystal Palace in kind of high-scoring games as well. So just shows how much he does bonus points wise to get the 3 bonus. Outside of that, in my midfield, we also had Jota's goal, 7-pointer, lovely stuff. Saka 15, love to see that. Saka doesn't often haul in FPL. He often gets the goal here or an assist there. He's just very consistent, but he doesn't often explode. But the way that Arsenal are playing the last couple of games against Nottingham Forest, against West Ham, they've been really clicking again. And it's great to see that. Saka, nice return, and he's just hard to sell. Even with the doublers in midfield, you just can't take Saka out, especially ahead of Burnley. So, yeah, he's going to stay in my team, the star boy. And then Palmer, 10-pointer. Look, Palmer didn't look like he was going to get a return in that Palace game. It left it very late, but 2 assists at the end. This is what Palmer does. He finds ways to return. Obviously, he's got Man City away, and then he's got the blank, so, have to think about that. But I think Palmer's just been one of the best value assets this season. So, when you wildcard or when you get him back after the blank, he could easily come back because he's just been so good to own this season. In terms of the front line then, we had a front 3 of Watkins, who blanked against Manchester United. Yeah, frustrating performance from him. Did have a couple of chances, but I don't think Villa really looked themselves against United in front of goal. They created the chances, but United just snatched that one, even though Villa probably had quite a lot of the game. Haaland, captain, easy decision. It had to be done at home to Everton, even with the early kickoff. Great fixture, and Haaland is back. He's back, baby, and lovely timing ahead of a double game week. A lot of people are going to be placing triple captaincy on him, so makes a lot of sense. Best asset in the game, and 2 home fixtures in double game at 25. And then Solanke got a return at least, a 4-pointer against Fulham, got the assist there. Also, he's got a double in 28, so kind of makes it hard to move him on. Newcastle up next, not the worst fixture either, so I think that's decent. The bench, Areola, got a 0-pointer because basically what happened is he conceded 4 and then went off at half-time. Not exactly ideal. He played the whole game, I should say. I'm thinking of the West Ham one. He played the whole game, but because he conceded 6, 0 points. It's not been good for West Ham recently, and the fixtures point towards starting Areola over Dubravka, but in game week 25, you've just got to pick the better keeper from the better defence, and as bad as Newcastle have been recently, I think they are still a better defence than West Ham, so even though the fixture's better away to Forest for Areola, I just don't think I can start him, because I see Forest getting a couple at the City ground, the way they found ways to score against Newcastle. I just don't see them not doing that against West Ham. And, Newcastle plays Bournemouth. Okay, I got Solanke. But, it's not an easy place to go, St James's Park. So you wouldn't be surprised to either see, Solanke get a couple or Dubravka get a pen save or a clean sheet. So there's those sort of things you have to think about. Hwang Yi-chan, 0-pointer. He didn't play, so Gross was subbed in for him. It's great to have, players in reserve if you need them. That's why an important squad depth is there. And then, Hwang didn't play against Brentford, so he's back for Tottenham, but he's currently on my bench because I just don't think I can fit him in this week. There's just too many other players I want to start. And I think Hwang without Cunha, after he got injured against Brentford, that might be a bit of a blow to Hwang's chances. I still think he can do well against Sheffield United in 26, but I think, Wolves might struggle a bit more without Cunha there. Now, Gabriel and Saliba are both on the bench. Yep, both of them, not just one, because I went for the attacking upside of the fullbacks. The fullbacks, usually get the attacking returns, not the centre-backs. So Doherty had Sheffield United at home, couldn't not play him. Trippier, had Forest, and Trippier's been so, consistent for attacking returns, you can't bench him. And then Porro has been basically playing at right wing for Tottenham and had Brighton, who often concede. So again, I don't think I could have benched Porro. So, Gabriel, I just didn't expect Arsenal to, massively come back that way. I thought they'd win, don't get me wrong, but I thought West Ham would score to come back from that disappointment at Man United. I thought, in the past, West Ham have often done quite well against Arsenal. And I just didn't see 2 goals from both Saliba and Gabriel in the same game. So, frustrating one, really is. But, ahead of Burnley, who's pretty bad from set pieces themselves, I think I'm going to probably have to at least start one of them because Burnley do concede set piece goals. But, it's frustrating because, if I hadn't have brought in Doughty, which I guess I probably would have done with the double in mind, then I would have started Gabriel and benched Saliba. At least I would have got one of them if I'd have not sold Konza, but I kind of had to sell Konza, didn't I, really, with him being flagged. So I don't really regret that too much. But at the same time, it is... I sold Taylor, didn't I? Was it Taylor or Konza? No, I brought in Konza for Taylor. Actually, I don't know why I thought I'd done that. Basically, the week before, I brought in Konza for Taylor. So this week it was selling Konza. So realistically, I wouldn't have just left Konza, rotting on my bench. I was bound to make the move there, but it was hard to squeeze in Gabriel Saliba without hindsight about Spurs in Porro and that sort of thing. So look, all in all, great game week. As I say, 7 green arrows in a row. It's looking really, really good, and it is now a huge double game week in Game Week 25. Very, very quickly before I show my team for Game Week 25, let me just update you on the FPL Yellow Armies mini league heading into this huge double game week. Now, of course, at the top we've got Wit FPL still going strong. A great team name: Ayu Flecken, Jurgen Me. I think that's a brilliant one. February Manager of the Month so far, we've got Mike Halpin. So shout out to Mike, he's doing really well. We've also got Wit FPL up there as well. And a few others. So, really interesting stuff. Of course, the January Manager of the Month was Mr. Kieran Rimmer by just 4 points. It was very tight, but just because he got more points in that game week, he got the title. So, really interesting. But overall, as I said, Wit FPL was smashing it. Got Jared up there as well. No FPL, Omni FPL, some great guys there and some great girls there. And so, thanks for those all in the mini league. Much appreciated. And now we turn our attention to double game week 25. What are my transfers, captaincy, chip strategy, etc. Let's get into it. So here we go then. The double game week 25 has arrived for this season. It is a huge one. So who's going to be in goal? It's Dubravka, our home to Bournemouth. Yes, I think Solanke will score, but I also think I'm covering this game because there's a chance Newcastle get a clean sheet being at St James's Park, and Dubravka surely has to come good eventually, right? Newcastle were pretty good last season defensively. It's not happened this year because of Pope's injury, perhaps, because of other injuries to their defence, but I still think there's a player in there from Dubravka, so just please deliver the goods this week with a nice home fixture. The back three then, we've got a new addition. Nathan Ake has come in as part of a -4. Yes, we're going all out for this double game week. You have to. I think the good optimal number of doublers is probably about 5 or 6. If you can get to 5 or 6, that will do. I don't think you should take more than a -8. A -8 often is hard to pay back, so if you can do a -4, even better. But about 5 or 6, I think, because you don't want to go all in for game week 25 and then leave yourself exposed in the blank 26, where you've got Liverpool, Luton, who both double, also blanking in 26, so that is an issue. Chelsea and Spurs, obviously, a lot of players we already own from those teams too, like Palmer and Porro. So you just want to deal with those players and maybe try and sell them if you can. Obviously, Spurs have got a fixture in 29, so you might want to hold on to your Spurs assets as well. But I brought in Ake because I needed to go for a doubling defender. In my view, I just had to make the move because I really felt that having Triple City this week is essential, and I wasn't set up well for the City players, really. I only had Haaland prior to this game week, so I've made a couple of moves. Ake has come in, and he's come in for Trippier, which is interesting because many people will have still kept Trippier this week, maybe start him against Bournemouth, but I just feel that, Trippier, he takes up a lot of money that I can use, elsewhere in this team, hence the kind of midfield acquisition there. And also, I think Ake represents good value. He's only 5 million. Trippier, yeah, okay, getting attack returns, but Newcastle, they haven't got many clean sheets this season, so I just don't think double Newcastle defence is worth pursuing anymore. I could easily get Trippier back if I wildcarded in 30 or whatever, but right now I don't think it's needed. I think, you've got to attack the doubles. City defenders I generally don't like because they seem to concede every single game due to Ederson, but I still think Ake, even though, they've got, potentially a Kanji who can play at left back, I think with the injury to Josko Gvardiol, that's a good chance for Ake to play both games in game week 25. And I think also that Ake's got enough goal threat for you to kind of justify it, even if City do concede, because, they haven't got João Cancelo anymore. They haven't really got an attacking fullback, but the most attacking of everyone is Ake, because we know he's got potential from set pieces. He's got a great header on him. So, yeah, I really like the Ake pick. I think he's just a bit of a no-brainer with that Gvardiol injury. Will he start both games? No guarantees with Pep, we know this, but I still think even if, Ederson concedes, even if he plays at least, most of one of the games, then he could get an attack return. That might be nice, especially, the Brentford game. I'm hoping for something. So, yeah, we'll have to see how that one goes, but I just think, there's not many defenders that look that great this game week for the double game week. Like, players like Doughty, you've already got, fine. Trent is obviously injured. You've got some players like, I just don't know how much Conor Bradley is going to play. We play both games in the double. I'm more confident that Ake will. But someone like, for instance, Reguilon, yeah, okay, he's not bad, but he's not got good fixtures. Then you've got maybe someone like a Liverpool defender, like a Kanate or a Van Dijk. But again, I'm not too sure. So I think Ake is just a bit cheaper and a bit more gettable. And I think Triple City, I couldn't afford De Bruyne. So my way of getting that Triple City is Nathan Ake. Because I think City at home are just imperious, and I expect them to keep a clean sheet in one of the two games, hopefully. Alfie Doughty, Man United, Liverpool, 2 tough games in a double, but as we've said previously with Doughty, he's got such attacking threat that it doesn't really matter what fixtures. Even if Luton concede, he's always creating chances. So I think just he's not an exciting pick because, people are starting to get him in. He's under 10% owned, but I still think he's not going to explode this double, but at least he'll be reliable. Gabriel, Burnley away, I just have to start him after I benched last week. Yeah, I've benched now. That's 2 goals, I think, from Gabriel just this season. It might even be more, to be honest. No, I think it's 2, because it's the one against West Ham and the one against Liverpool. In a previous season, I also benched Gabriel. That was away to Fulham with a goal. I might have even done it another time. It feels like I always bench Gabriel for his goals, and this game feels perfectly set up for a bullet header against a Burnley side that just cannot concede, defend set pieces. So I think Gabriel, great player to own, definitely start this week. Saliba is a bit more tricky. Now, if you've got the luxury of a free spot in your defence, double Arsenal defence away to Burnley is not the worst thing. I'm not too keen on double defences generally, but I think Arsenal is maybe an exception. But I can't squeeze in Saliba. I've just got too many attackers with double game weeks to play. So Saliba's on the bench, but I'm hoping that what ends up happening is maybe Burnley do score, but then Gabriel gets an attack and return, so then it kind of balances out. So we'll have to see with that one. Midfield then, Foden's come in. Yeah, that's my second transfer in the -4. So Ake in for Trippier and Foden in for, yes, here it is, Mr. Cole Palmer. Now, I know Palmer's got Man City and he could score a pen, but I just don't think that it's worth it when he's got blanking in 26. The fixtures after that, they're okay. Don't get me wrong, I could get him back, but I'm in no rush to. And I think City just have to be priority this week because, rotation wise, the fact that Grealish is injured, that helps Foden's chances. You've got, other players like Bernardo Silva who's picking up knocks. So there's a lot of kind of potential for Foden to play more minutes, even though, you've had Alvarez come back, you've had De Bruyne come back. I think Foden's fairly flexible. He can play on the right, he can play centrally. It's just, I think Foden's in such good form at the moment that even in Pep standards, he feels he needs to start him. So, yeah, I'm pretty confident he'll play most of the minutes. And I think Chelsea and Brentford are two sides that can concede. And we know that Foden scored a hat-trick in the reverse game against Brentford. And he often scores against Brentford generally. So I really like Foden this week. I think he's definitely a logical transfer in. And it kind of feels nice to have that blanking player in 26 that I can move on in Palmer. If I had to move on a Richarlison, for instance, with a good fixture this week at home to Wolves, I would struggle with it a bit more than Palmer. I can kind of justify because it's relying on maybe a penalty away at the best team in the league. So I think Palmer could equally return, but I think Foden with the 2 games you've got to go for. Jota's also got the double. Brentford and Luton, 2 good fixtures. As I said, scored last week. Very happy to own him. I think Salah coming back in full training is a bit of a concern for long term, but for this double, I would expect Jota to still start both games. I think Salah's probably going to get 2 sub appearances, to be honest. I don't think he's going to, necessarily play all the minutes. I know he's a very fit player for Salah, but I still think Jota's the one to own. So I'm going to kind of stick with that. I think Saka for me just makes a lot of sense. Bukayo Saka, you know how good he is, and he's got Burnley away. So why would you doubt him? He's one of those players. So I think Pascal Gross as well, Sheffield United, great fixture. That midfield is looking pretty tasty, I can't lie. So, yeah, we've got about just over half an hour to the deadline, but this team is looking pretty decent. So, pretty sure I'm locked in. The front 3 then, they're not changing. As much as I'm tempted by Darwin, tempted by Tony, I just don't think it's worth it, especially with Darwin, because, it's take basically a -8 to get him back out again, because I'm taking a -4 already this week. Then it's another -4, that would be a -8. Then it's another transfer to get him out in 26 when he'll blank, and I will probably want Watkins back. So it wouldn't be logical to sell Watkins now, and I don't think it would be logical to sell Solanke either, because I think Newcastle might concede this week, their recent form defensively, and Solanke's got the double in 28. Now, it's much harder for me to sell Watkins, actually, because I've got a lot of value tied up in Watkins, and it might be hard for me to get him back, around the time that we're going to want him. He's got great fixtures now, Fulham, Forest and Luton, but then also Watkins, he might be needed in 29 if we're not going to free hit, which we probably will be, but, in case, he's got a fixture in 29. We don't know that's the case for someone like Darwin Núñez, so it just doesn't make sense to me. Those are the 3 optimal strikers I still feel, and if you're on a free hit, maybe go for a Tony or a Darwin, but for now, I think it's just logical to stick with it. Haaland on the triple captain for fairly, obviously, it just doesn't, have any doubt in my mind. It's a fairly, no-brainer. He's the best asset in the game. He's got 2 home fixtures. We know that City will, probably play their strong team. They're not going to rotate because of, Champions League or anything, because they've already played that Copenhagen game. And then later on in the season, those doubles, we don't know, they might have won the title by then. So I just think of all the times you could triple captain someone, sorry, my hair's a bit of a mess, apologies. Of all the times you could, triple captain someone, this is the most logical. It just simply is. I mean, you could go for a Solanke if you're really feeling fruity, if you're feeling brave against Sheffield United and Luton, great fixtures. But the thing about Solanke is, yes, he's probably going to get more minutes than Haaland, but he's just not as good. Haaland is just a joke. So, yeah, fair enough. Watkins, Fulham, good fixture. And, Haaland's Brentford, Chelsea, decent fixtures. We like that. And then, of course, Solanke's got Newcastle. So the bench is the following: Areola, Hwang, Saliba and Porro. Now, Porro, as you'll see, is flagged. He's confirmed to miss Game Week 25. Now, I always say, #play it your own way. Because what I ended up doing was, my plan was, basically, earlier on in the week, let me explain, it was going to be Ake and Foden in for Porro and Palmer. So I checked it on, I think, Wednesday night, I believe. Was it Wednesday night? I think so. Or it might even be Tuesday night. I think it was Wednesday night, though. And basically, I looked at the price changes. No, and I was pretty confident there weren't going to be any price changes. So I looked at it. I was like, "Yep, it'll be fine, I'm sure." And then what happened is no prices changed. So I was like, going into Thursday, brilliant, that's great. And therefore, I could have done the move, but I didn't do it because I knew that there was probably not going to be a change to Ake or Foden or anyone. Because basically, I could afford Ake and Porro and Palmer and Foden, that switch, exactly, money exact. But then what happened was Thursday night, I saw there was a chance Ake could go up, but I was kind of still sceptical about it. Maybe because I doubted it the night before and it hadn't happened. So then I was planning on doing that transfer, Ake in for Porro and Foden in for Palmer that Thursday night, and I basically just forgot to. And by the time I'd looked, Ake had gone up. So then I was basically priced out by 0.1 of doing the Foden in for Palmer and Ake in for Porro. So because of that, on Friday morning, I decided, you know what, I just want to get these two players in because I want Triple City, as much as I can do to get Triple City. Do I want to sell Saka for Foden? Absolutely not. Do I want to sell Gross? Absolutely not. Do I want to sell Hwang? Well, he's got Sheffield United in 26, so no. And therefore, the only issue, for this transfer was Ake. The issue was not Palmer because we know, of course, that Palmer's cheaper than Foden anyway. The problem I had was I could afford Foden and Ake from Porro because of the fact that it was enough money in the bank, basically. So I had, I think, 1.8 or 1.4 in the bank. But when I did that move, after the Ake price difference, then I couldn't afford. So then I had to sell a more expensive defender for Ake. So therefore I sold Trippier. Now I think about it, I've got Solanke starting, so that actually is quite logical. So I'm hoping Solanke does well. But I've also then started Dubravka over Areola, just in case that Trippier sale was a terrible decision, and then at least I'll cover the defensive points for Newcastle in some shape or form. Now, what I will say is, keeping Porro is not the worst strat, because even though he's going to be out for 25 and 26, they'll blank in 26 anyway, and Ange did say today that he thinks he's going to be out for 2 weeks. If he's out for 2 weeks, hopefully he'll be back for game 27, when he'll be low owned because everyone has sold him. Not many people will bother to bring him back, and therefore he could be really nice in 27 and 28. We'll probably free hit in 29 anyway, but it could be a nice differential, if that makes sense. So I think it's not the essential to move out Porro if you've got another defender you can play this week. Hence, my defender was Ake I brought in. But yeah, that was what I decided to do. Basically, it was my mistake not making the move when I was planning on doing it. I just missed the ball. But it also is changing my strategy based on what I can afford by selling Trippier. So that's me locked in for double game week 25. I hope you have enjoyed this one. Smash a like on it. Let me know with half an hour to go till deadline. Are you locked in? I hope you are, because it's a big game week, right? Get that triple captain locked in because it's got to be Haaland. It's an absolute no-brainer, right? It's just got to be Haaland. So yeah, that's all we're gonna do today. Make sure you do check out, of course, the Form is Temporary podcast on Spotify. Our latest episode was really, really good fun with Adam from Above Average FPL. Really, really good one with Finn and also with Oliver. So check that out on Spotify, and you can listen back to it. Still all relevant ahead of the kind of deadline. And also make sure you watch out for this Wednesday's episode. It'll be out on Thursday morning as usual. We'll be doing it with FPL Veteran. So if you go check out his channel, his Twitter, he does some stuff. He's been on Juice before. He's a top lad in the community. So FPL Veteran, check him out. He's been on like FPL Llamas, FPL Casuals streams before. I've been on with him before. So yeah, do check him out. It's going to be a great episode with FPL Veteran. And I'll, of course, Sunday night send out the tweet for the Form is Temporary podcast, getting your questions ahead of the the blank game week 26. So yeah, do smash a like on this one. I'll see you in the next one, and good luck, people, for the double game week 25. Don't go crazy, don't take -12s, but at least have some Triple City, have a Liverpool player. If you can fit in a Brentford, then fair play. But I'm not able to. But I'm pretty happy with how that looks, I think. So what that means for 26 is I'll have Doughty, Jota, and Porro blanking in 26. So I'll have a full 11 for 26, which feels quite nice to be honest. Without having to make a transfer, I could roll in even in 26 if I really want to. So yeah, nice flexibility. Try and set yourself up for the long term. And get those teams locked in, people. Haaland triple captain time, baby. Let's go. Let's have a big double game week.